When the tall office building emptied out each evening, a different kind of life began. The busy daytime sounds of phones and talking faded, replaced by the soft hum of the building itself. This was when Ilara arrived. She was a quiet woman, always moving with a gentle purpose, pushing her cart full of soaps and cloths. Every night, she cleaned the many floors of Global Innovations, Inc., a very big company. Ilara wasn't just cleaning up spills and emptying trash cans. As she swept the polished floors and wiped down shiny desks, her eyes saw everything. She noticed the half-finished reports left open on computers, the scribbled notes on whiteboards, and the important papers left on chairs. She saw the coffee rings and the crumbs, but also the important words printed on fancy letterheads. She knew which boss was messy and which one was neat. She learned which teams worked late and which ones left early. She watched as the powerful people who ran the company went home, leaving their offices for her to tend to. Ilara never made a sound. She just worked, letting her eyes take in all the small clues about the big company and the people who ran it. She knew more than anyone thought, just by watching the things they left behind. She saw the important things and the big messes, both on the desks and sometimes in the way the company was run. Her quiet work gave her a secret window into the heart of Global Innovations, Inc. While Ilara worked silently in the empty hallways, the top floor of Global Innovations, Inc. was buzzing with a very different kind of energy. In the biggest room, called the Boardroom, a long, shiny table gleamed under bright lights. Around this table sat the company's most important people, the executives. These were the men and women who wore the fanciest suits and dresses. Their shoes were shiny, their watches sparkled, and they all looked very serious, but also very proud. They spoke with loud, important voices, their words filling the grand room. Papers rustled as they pointed at charts and graphs, discussing big numbers and even bigger plans. "Our profits need to go up, up, up!" boomed Mr. Harrison, a man with a booming laugh and a tie as red as a fire truck. Mrs. Albright, with her sharp glasses, tapped her pen on a thick report. "We must cut costs," she declared, her voice firm, "and make sure our money grows even more." They talked about millions of dollars as if it were pocket change, always focused on getting richer and more powerful. Each executive believed they were the smartest person in the room, interrupting each other with big words and important ideas. They nodded at their own clever thoughts and rarely listened to anyone else for too long. They felt very important, sitting there, in charge of everything, making big decisions about the company's future. They thought they knew all there was to know about Global Innovations, Inc., and nothing could surprise them. The important executives kept talking, their voices echoing off the polished walls. Mr. Harrison was just starting another big speech about saving money, his face red with excitement. Mrs. Albright was about to add her own clever idea, tapping her pen impatiently. They were so caught up in their own important words and ideas that they didn't hear the soft squeak of a door opening. Then, a hush fell over the room. All the loud talking stopped at once, like a radio being turned off. Every single head turned to the large double doors at the far end of the room. Standing there, holding a simple cleaning rag, was Ilara. She looked small in her plain work clothes, holding a mop handle. Her cleaning cart, forgotten earlier, was just inside the door, half hidden behind a tall plant. She had simply come back to get it, thinking the room was empty for the night. Ilara's eyes, usually so sharp and noticing, looked a little surprised too. She hadn't expected anyone to be there, especially not all the top bosses. A quiet, "Oh," escaped her lips, barely a whisper. The powerful men and women at the shiny table stared at her. Their faces, which had just been full of big smiles and serious frowns, now looked blank. Mr. Harrison's mouth was still open, ready to speak, but no sound came out. Mrs. Albright's pen had stopped tapping. They just sat there, frozen, looking at the quiet janitor, who had walked right into their very important meeting. The silence in the room didn't last long. A small chuckle started from one corner, then another, until soon the whole boardroom was filled with laughter. It wasn't friendly laughter. It was loud and made Alara feel small. Mr. Harrison, the one with the red tie, was the first to speak, wiping a tear of amusement from his eye. Well, look what the mop dragged in, he boomed, and the other executives laughed even harder. Did you forget your dustpan, dear? This is a meeting for important people, not for polishing the floors. Mrs. Albright, usually so proper, joined in. Yes, darling, you're quite lost. The cleaning closet is down the hall. We're discussing very serious matters here, matters that wouldn't make much sense to someone like you. She waved her hand dismissively, as if shooing a fly. Another executive, a young man named Mr. Davies, leaned back in his chair with a smirk. Perhaps she's here to offer us a sparkling new idea for our budget. What do you say, Alara? Any tips on how to scrub away our financial worries? His joke was met with more loud guffaws. They didn't even know her name, calling her dear or just you. Quote, Alara stood still, holding her mop. The laughter washed over her, and her face showed no anger, only a quiet understanding. She was used to being unseen, to being a shadow in their busy world. But this time, their mean words and loud laughs felt different. They truly believed she had no place there, that her thoughts and presence meant nothing. They just kept laughing, waiting for her to turn around and disappear back into the quiet hallways. The laughter of the executives grew louder, filling the room with their unkind sounds. Mr. Harrison was wiping his eyes again, shaking his head at the funny sight of Alara standing there. Mrs. Albright was still waving her hand, ready to send Alara away. Young Mr. Davies was just about to make another joke about mops and money. But then, something happened. Alara, who had been standing so still, slowly lowered her mop to rest against her cleaning cart. With her other hand, she reached into the large pocket of her apron. The executives hardly noticed, too busy with their own amusement. Then Alara pulled out a thick stack of papers. They were crisp and white, neatly held together. She didn't shout or raise her voice. Instead, she just held them up for everyone to see. The papers had a fancy seal at the top and important-looking words printed on them. Slowly, the laughter died down. One executive stopped chuckling, then another. Their smiles faded as they squinted at the papers Alara held. She moved a step closer, letting the light catch the words. On the very top paper, in bold, clear letters, was the name Global Innovations, Inc., and right below it, even bolder, was the name Alara Vance, sole proprietor. Quote, a hush, much deeper than before, fell over the room. The executives stopped laughing completely. Their eyes, once full of unkind amusement, were now wide with confusion and a growing sense of dread. Alara, the quiet janitor, stood there, holding the proof that she was not just a cleaner, but the true owner of the very company they thought they ran. The words on the paper hit the executives like a cold splash of water. Their faces, which moments ago had been red with laughter, now drained of all color. Mr. Harrison's booming laugh was gone, replaced by a strange gurgling sound in his throat. His eyes, wide as saucers, darted from Alara's calm face to the official document she held. Mrs. Albright's sharp glasses seemed to slip down her nose, but she didn't even notice. Her mouth hung slightly open, her usual firm expression replaced by one of pure disbelief. Young Mr. Davies, who had been so quick with his jokes, now looked as if he had seen a ghost. His smirk had vanished, leaving his face pale and slack. They all stared, first at Alara, then at the papers, then back at Alara. A wave of confusion washed over them. Could it be true? This quiet woman in the simple uniform, the one they had just laughed at and told to go back to cleaning, was the owner? It seemed impossible. Their minds raced, trying to make sense of the words. Alara Vance, sole proprietor, quote. The silence was thick and heavy, much different from the earlier hush. This was a silence born of shock, of a world turned upside down. They had thought they were the most powerful people in the room, in the entire company. But now, the real power stood before them, holding a mop in one hand and their company's fate in the other. Their bodies tensed, some leaning forward, others shrinking back, as the unbelievable truth slowly, chillingly, sank in. The heavy silence continued, broken only by a small cough from one of the stunned executives. Ilara, still holding the papers, finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. "I can see this as a surprise," she said, her eyes sweeping over their pale, shocked faces. "But it is true. I am Ilara Vance, and Global Innovations, Inc. belongs to me." Quote. She then began to explain, her words calm and steady. "My great-aunt, Evelyn Vance, was a very smart woman. She started this company many years ago, and she built it with hard work and good ideas. When she passed away, she left everything to me." A few executives gasped, remembering the name Evelyn Vance, a legend they had only read about in old company histories. "But I didn't want to just sit in a fancy office," Ilara continued. "I wanted to understand the company, truly understand it from the ground up. I needed to see how it really worked, what was good, and what needed fixing. So I chose to come in as a janitor. I thought it was the best way to see everything, without anyone acting differently around me." Quote. She looked around the room, her gaze resting on each executive for a moment. "Every night I walked these halls. I saw your papers, your notes, your messes. I learned more about this company by cleaning its floors than I ever could have from a boardroom table. I saw the real heart of global innovations, and sometimes I saw its problems too." Her explanation hung in the air, a simple truth that made their expensive suits and important titles feel very small indeed. Ilara's voice grew a little firmer, no longer just explaining her past, but speaking of what she had seen. "From my quiet place, I observed many things," she said, her gaze steady. "I saw how some of you wasted money on things that did not help the company, like fancy parties instead of better tools for the workers. I found bills for things that were never used, left on desks for me to clean around." Quote. The executives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their pale faces now showing a mix of shame and fear. Mr. Harrison's red tie suddenly felt too tight. Mrs. Albright avoided Ilara's eyes, staring at the shiny table instead. "More importantly," Ilara continued, "I saw how you treated the people who work here. I heard the complaints about long hours and unfair pay, even as I cleaned up your expensive lunch leftovers. I saw how you spoke to some of the staff, as if they were less important than the dust I swept away." Her words were not loud, but they cut deep. "And I saw that many of you did not truly care about the future of Global Innovations, Inc., she finished, her voice soft but powerful. "You cared about your own big salaries and your own power, not about the company my great-aunt worked so hard to build. You thought only of today's money, not about making a strong company for tomorrow. I learned that just by seeing what you left behind, and by hearing the quiet whispers in the hallways after you all went home." Quote. With the executives looking down in shame, Ilara set her mop aside and walked closer to the big table. She no longer looked like just a janitor. She looked like someone who knew exactly what needed to be done. "I have not only seen the problems," she said, her voice clear and strong, "but I have also thought of ways to fix them and make our company better for everyone." Quote. She began to speak of her plans, not with big, fancy words, but with simple, smart ideas. "First, we will stop all wasteful spending," she announced. "No more expensive lunches that are thrown away, no more buying things we don't need. That money will go into a special fund to help our employees and to grow our best ideas." The executives, though still shocked, began to listen, some even grabbing their pens to take notes, just like they would for another important boss. "Next, we will make sure every person who works here feels respected and valued," Ilara continued. "This means fair pay, good working conditions, and a chance for everyone to share their ideas. The people on the lowest floors often have the best ideas for how things can improve, because they see things you don't." She talked about new training programs and ways for employees to give their thoughts without fear. Finally, Ilara spoke of the company's future. "We will invest in new, clean ways to make our products, caring for our world as much as we care for our profits. We will build things that last and help people, not just things that make a quick dollar. Global Innovations, Inc. will be a place known for its kindness, its smart ideas, and its care for everyone." Her plans showed she knew a lot about the business, from the smallest details she'd seen cleaning to the biggest dreams for the company. Alara finished outlining her plans, her voice ringing with quiet authority. The executives, who had once laughed at her, now sat in stunned silence, their faces a mixture of fear and growing respect. And to make sure these changes happen, Alara stated, her eyes directly on Mr. Harrison, "We need people in charge who truly believe in these ideas and care about everyone who works here." Quote, she took a deep breath. "Therefore, Mr. Harrison, Mrs. Albright, and Mr. Davies, your time with Global Innovations, Inc. is over. You have shown that your focus is on yourselves, not on the well-being of this company or its people." The three mean executives gasped, their faces turning from pale to a shocked red. They tried to protest, but Alara held up a hand, stopping them. "I have seen enough." Quote. Then, Alara turned her attention to the other, quieter people in the room, and even some she knew only from her nightly cleanings. She spoke of a kind manager named Sarah, who always stayed late to help her team. She mentioned a hardworking engineer named Mark, whose desk was always covered with clever new designs, but who was never listened to. She had seen their dedication and true love for the company in her quiet rounds. "Sarah, you will be our new head of operations," Alara announced, surprising Sarah herself, who had been sitting quietly in the back. "Mark, you will lead our new innovation team." Alara made it clear that she wanted people who were not just smart, but also kind, honest, and truly cared about making the company a great place for everyone. The changes were big and quick, starting right there in the boardroom. With the old executives gone and new, caring leaders in place, Global Innovations, Inc. began to change. Alara, now sitting at the head of the big boardroom table, made sure her smart ideas were put into action. The wasteful spending stopped, and the money saved was used to give workers better pay and new tools to do their jobs well. The hallways, once filled with quiet fear and hidden complaints, now buzzed with happy voices. Employees felt heard and respected. Sarah, the new head of operations, made sure everyone had a chance to share their ideas, and Mark's innovation team created exciting new products that helped people and the planet. Alara walked the floors often, not with a mop, but with a friendly smile, talking to everyone from the mailroom staff to the new engineers. She still noticed everything, but now she saw happiness and teamwork instead of messes and secrets. Under Alara's fair and smart leadership, Global Innovations, Inc. grew stronger and more successful than ever before. The company made good money, but it also did good things for its workers and the world. It became a place where everyone felt important, no matter their job. The story of the quiet janitor who became the owner, and how she listened to everyone, spread far and wide. It proved to everyone that the best ideas, the ones that truly make things better, can indeed come from anyone, even from the person quietly cleaning the floors.